Hello and welcome to day 21 of my Advent of Code series for 2020. If you've missed any of the previous episodes and you want to get caught up on those, check out the playlist linked right up here, and be sure to get subscribed to me so you don't miss any of my future videos. So today we are tackling day 21 allergen assessment. So here we reach the last stop on the train and the closest that we can get to our island, but unfortunately there are no boats on this island, so we are going to just build a raft and we need to bring some food with us. Sadly, we do not speak the local language, so we cannot read the ingredients lists, and we are allergic to some things, so that's dangerous, but sometimes the allergens are listed in a language that we understand, and we should be able to use this information to determine which ingredient contains which allergen so that we can work out which foods are safe. So we start by compiling a list of foods where we have their ingredient list and then their allergen list. So the allergens are not always marked, so the allergen list will be some or all of the allergens in a specific food. So there is always just going to be one ingredient that contains each allergen, and that ingredient will be somewhere in the ingredients list of each thing with a listed allergen. So that means that even if that allergen isn't listed, the ingredient could still be present, but if the ingredient is not present, then the allergen is definitely not present, and vice versa. So we need to go ahead and find out which ingredients cannot possibly contain any of the allergens in our list. And then we need to determine how many times each of those ingredients appear in our entire list for our answer. So this is way more doable than we had yesterday and for a few of the previous days now. So I highly recommend you go ahead and jump in and try this yourself, and then we can jump over to my code right now. So the first thing that I do is when we read in our foods, I go ahead, break it down by line, and then I break down each line into the two sides, which are split by this space, open parentheses contains other space, where the thing before that is going to give us our ingredients. So I can just go ahead and split that down because those are split by spaces. Sorry about that. And that will go ahead and give us a set of all of the ingredients. And then we can get the set of allergens by going ahead and splitting everything after that by the commas. And that will go ahead and give us our set of allergens. So then I just add those both into a list, paired in a tuple, and finally, once we're done with each line, we return that list. So then that list that we build gets passed into part one. So in part one, the first thing that I do is I determine how many times each ingredient appears in the list, because that is going to be necessary for us to return our solution once we find which ingredients are good. So as we're looping through every single line, I go ahead and loop through every single ingredient, and I essentially treat this like a default dict. So if it's not already in the food count dictionary, then I initialize it at 1. Otherwise, I go ahead and add 1 to its count. So then once we're done with that, we go ahead and loop through our allergens. So what we're doing with our allergens here is we're essentially just building up a dictionary inside this possible thing that is going to map every allergen to every ingredient that could possibly be the ingredient that has that allergen. So what we do is first we check if it's not in possible, so that means we haven't seen this allergen before, and if it is, then we just pass in a copy of the set of ingredients. I don't pass the bare set because we are going to end up mutating this later, and we do not want to end up messing up our set. So we go ahead and pass that into a copy because any of those ingredients could possibly be our allergen. But then each subsequent time through, when we see that allergen again, we go ahead and narrow down that allergen list by saying that now it's only going to be the union of it with the current ingredients list. Because for that allergen to be a specific ingredient, that ingredient would have to appear in every single food that that allergen is listed for. So this logic doesn't work the other way around because we are not guaranteed that the allergen list is going to be complete on every single food, but we are guaranteed that if an allergen is listed, it is in the food, so this logic works and will eventually whittle down our list. So now finally, we can go ahead and subtract out all of the ingredients that may possibly contain an allergen from our list so that we can return the sum of the number of how many times each ingredient appears that is definitely safe. So what I do here is I initialize a set called allergic. I go ahead and loop through our possible dot values thing, and so that's just going to give us every ingredient that is in one of those possible lists. So what that is essentially going to be is that is going to say, okay, this right here, this could possibly contain an allergen. We're not sure if it contains an allergen, but it could possibly, so it's definitely not definitely safe. So then we go ahead and update our allergic set by adding in every single ingredient in each possible thing. So then once we do that, we build up our allergic set. Then we can go ahead and our food count, because we went ahead and counted all those, that has the nice side effect of the keys are going to contain a set of all of the possible ingredients that are in our list. So then we can go ahead and subtract the set of the ingredients that may possibly contain an allergen from all of our ingredients, and that is going to give us a set of all of our ingredients that are definitely safe. So then we can go ahead and for each of the ingredients that's in that group of ingredients, we can go ahead and find how many times it occurs by using our food count dictionary, and then we can just return the sum of all of those, and that is it for part 1, and we can jump into part 2. So for part 2, we need to go ahead and determine which ingredient is responsible for including which allergen, and then we need to go ahead and sort those pairings alphabetically by their allergen, and then give back all of those ingredients in a comma-separated list. So this is our first non-numeric submission all the way at day 20. Very exciting. But again, this is very doable. I recommend you jump in, and if you're stuck, go ahead and look at my video for day 16, and that may give you a push in the right direction. That's not going to be the style of solution I'm detailing here, but if you want to see both, part 2 for day 16 is very, very similar. So what we go ahead and do in here, sorry about that, is for part 2, we do the same exact possible dictionary building that we did in part 1, so I'm not going to go over that again. And then we go ahead and we have a loop down here. So here, what we have is found is going to be the set of all of the ingredients for which we have already determined what their allergen is. And then allergen map is going to be a list that's going to contain a bunch of tupled pairs of allergen and then ingredient, where the allergen is whatever allergen and the ingredient is whatever ingredient is responsible for that allergen. So we have a while loop here. So we're just going to say while the length of allergen map is less than the length of possible.keys. So that's essentially going to be while we haven't found an answer for every single allergen, because we need to find every single allergen. For that, we're just going to keep running through our list here with this for loop. We're going to keep running through possible, splitting that down into our allergen and ingredients on each run. And we're going to say if the length of ingredients minus found, so remember found is all the things that we've already found what allergen they have. So if essentially we're down to one final element for our allergen, we know what ingredient it is, then we go ahead and we find the min of ingredients minus found. So pretty much what this is doing is we know that this set only has one thing in it, but sets aren't subscriptable or anything. So while you could convert this to a list and then get the 0th element, which is how I treated it in day 16, you can also just use min, and that will give you the only element in a set. So I assign that to our ingredient. We go ahead and append to our allergen mapping here. We append allergen and ingredient in that tuple, and we go ahead and add that ingredient to found, and we break to stop going through this iteration of the for loop so that we go ahead and check correctly next time, because the next element that we need to find may be behind us, so it doesn't make sense to run through the entire loop again. So then once we have completed this loop several times, until we have gotten down our allergen map to have every single allergen and ingredient pairing, then we can go ahead and sort our allergen map. So this sorting is by default going to sort based off of the first element of each tuple, and that is going to be a string of our allergen, so it's going to end up sorting alphabetically by allergen, which is nice that we only just had to call sorted on it. So then we can go ahead and loop through our sorted list, find the second element in it, or the 1th element in it, which is going to be our ingredient itself, and go ahead and join that list that we end up generating here, or that tuple in this case, join that by commas, and that will give us our answer. So that is it for day 21. Definitely a bit of a rest day from the past few crazy days that we've had. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my day 16 solution, which I will also link if you want to see a different way to solve part 2 by sorting, which I think is a little bit faster, in fact. And that is going to be it for me from today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave it a like. Comment down below with what I should do once Advent of Code is over, and be sure to get subscribed to my channel and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any future videos, and I will see you in the next one.